In this video, we're going to talk about Fiddle Leaf Fig propagation and how to encourage new branching. In this video, we are going to talk about propagating your fiddle leaf fig. There's a few different methods that you can take to propagate a fiddle leaf fig just like this. I also have a full ultimate guide to repotting this fiddle leaf fig. I actually did both videos at the same time and realized they were both so long. They deserved two separate videos. So come along and join me as I propagate and encourage more branching of my fiddle leaf fig. Some of you were on the journey with me when I took my fiddle leaf fig, which is a couple of years old, and chopped it. You can see here where I chopped it, and in an attempt to get branching. I also used cakey cloning paste. I showed how to use that, and that was almost 2 years ago. As you can see, the branching has fully worked. At the time I had chopped it because it was getting too tall for my patio, and it is now once again too tall for my patio. Up at the top, this tree actually looks pretty great. Here is more detail. You can see where I chopped it, and it produced several branches after getting chopped, and also using cakey cloning paste. So some of those branches where I used cakey cloning paste, this is one of them. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 branches. If you're wondering what this is, I'm attempting to propagate this branch, which I will go into more detail later. We can check on that. I now realize I would prefer a branch more further down the tree, so around here. Lost a leaf here, here, and here. Those could be good spots. That's usually where it sort of has a node, a growth node. So that could be a good spot for cutting a little hole, putting the cakey cloning paste in. And then I also wanted to talk about propagation of this plant. So propagation means growing a new plant from previous plant. It could either be seed propagation when a plant grows seeds, or it can be propagation from cutting the plant itself and a new clone plant will grow roots out of that. Ficus need a branch and a node. If you have one of these leaves, in theory, you could stick one of these leaves into soil and they will, or water, and they will grow roots, but they won't grow a new tree. It'll just be a living leaf. But in theory, if you do have a branch, you can propagate that in water. I was unsuccessful when I tried to propagate the top of this tree. I think I know why now. I cut the top, we put it in water. I went on vacation, there was a heat wave, but also I kept a lot of leaves on that branch. And when you're propagating a ficus or another tree similar to this, you don't want to have as many leaves on there because it was putting its energy into keeping those leaves alive rather than putting its energy into creating roots. So I believe that's one area where I definitely got that wrong. Since I was so unsuccessful in producing a propagated branch, I wanted to try something new, which was air layering. Air layering, or root ball propagation, is a method of propagation where you grow new roots while the branch is still on the tree. So the way you do that is you take some kind of a material that can stay moist. You can purchase special air layering balls, but I just used a plastic bag. You fill it with a substrate. I use sphagnum moss, and you keep it moist. And the theory is that the plant or the branch will be tricked into thinking it is going into the ground, because a lot of these plants, propagation is a form of survival for them. So say a tree fell over, the branches of the tree can root into the ground and grow back up and become stronger that way. So it's just like a survival technique of all these plants. So I put this little air layer ball in several months ago. I've kept an eye on it. I haven't really done much. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if it's been successful. It might not be. In fact, it looks like the sphagnum moss has grown inside it. I haven't seen any actual roots, but let's just take a look. So several months ago, I took this plastic bag, I filled it with damp sphagnum moss, and I tied it up in this tree onto this branch because this is the tallest branch on the tree, and I felt like that would make a nice new tree. So I want to see if it has been successful, if maybe we need to add more moisture, a different method. Let's just see what is going on in here. Take a look. So I used wire to keep it tight and keep it in place. And it looks like I used tape as well. Let's see what we've got going on in here. It looks like a whole lot of nothing. So my air layering was not successful, that I can tell. I'm looking all around to see. No. I just threw this on here to see would it work. I didn't keep it that wet. My moss is damp, but it's not wet. And I didn't put any kind of rooting hormone on here. So I think I'm gonna put it back on. I mean, it looks healthy. It's got these little dots like that might grow roots. I'll show you a little bit of a actual fig, a mission fig branch that I found. The trees are in the same family that I'm hoping this will look like next time, but so far unsuccessful. So this is a mission fig branch. The city was pruning a tree. This was on the side of the road and I grabbed it. And I think one of the differences is I put it in water and you'll see it has rooted. So it starts off creating these little like weird bumps, and then some of those weird bumps turn into roots. I'm going to let these roots grow bigger before I transfer to soil, but you'll notice they really come strong out of the nodes. These are the lines where leaves formerly used to be. So we got a node. Here's nodes up here where new branches will eventually come out or have started to come out. This is not the same kind of tree, but it's the same family. So in theory, it should work to do this with a fiddle leaf fig. The difference between this and my previous attempt is I pulled all the leaves off and we only had a branch, and it put all its energy into growing roots, and now it's growing new growths. So I'm certain, I've seen other people do it. I know you can do that with this type of ficus or fiddle leaf fig. So my attempt at air layering didn't work, but we'll try it again, and then I might also cut off a branch here today to try a jar propagation to see does it work. So I'm thinking, this was my air layering branch. I'm going to try the air layer on that again. And I'm going to choose a smaller branch for water propagation, or at least the end of a branch. I don't need to take the whole branch. So yeah, let's do it. Why not? And here we are at the roof, standing on a chair with these beautiful, healthy offshoots. I'm going to keep that one on here. And you know what? I'm not going to cut this whole branch. I'm going to cut this. They look dirty, but they've been sprayed down with isopropyl alcohol. So see here, here's a node. So I know that roots will, in theory, come out here. You can actually see those little bumps. Those will probably become little rooty areas. Just trying to see where's a good spot. I'm going to cut it on this long part here, keeping this node as a spot where roots will come out. There we go. It's down there. Here is what I'm left with. I'm going to let it callus over. I'm going to remove definitely this leaf, probably one or two more leaves. I think at least 3 leaves. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves on this little branch. I think I'm only going to keep 2. I'm going to remove the rest and pop it in water similar to that little fig branch. So let's let it callus over. So I've cut 3 leaves off. I have this. I'm going to clean these off, let it callus over. These little nubs here where the leaves were, they'll just fall off, and then we're going to dip it in some rooting hormone. This is what I use. It's just like a little powder. You get the end of your thing wet, you dip it in the rooting powder, and it is more likely to grow roots. And we'll see what happens. As for my air layering experiment, I am going to dampen this, put that rooting hormone powder all over it, and replace my little air layer sphagnum moss ball. Okay, so here we are. Still some spider webs I gotta clean off, but I'm gonna get this all dampened, and I might even scrape some of the outside off, because I have heard that's another way to encourage roots in air layering. At this point, I feel like this tree is a little bit unkillable. I'm gonna also remove this leaf because I feel like that's a likely spot for the roots to come out, because that's the node. And perhaps that's where I was going wrong, was by not covering the node itself up. You can see there's the node there. And we're gonna just scrape that. I've ignored this tree for some time. It's probably like, what is going on? Why is she suddenly so interested in me? Okay, so that's all wet. A lot of that outer bark is gone. I've got my rooting hormone. I'm just gonna, so as you can see, this is kind of just like a powder. I'm gonna dab it all over this branch to encourage those roots to start growing in my little air layer bag. Okay, that's nice and coated in our root hormone. I've refilled my sphagnum moss bag with more water, and indeed it had started growing. The moss inside came alive again. That's what it looked kind of like, roots, but it's not. It's just moss. It's got some excess in there, so I'm going to make sure that this is sort of wrapped all the way around this branch where we want the roots to grow out of. The sphagnum moss is in contact with the branch. That is key because we want that moisture. I'm going to wrap that up so it retains moisture. It's pretty wet. And then I'm going to use my garden wire. You can see that bag is like full of water because I just filled it up. And I'm going to use my garden wire to keep it in there. And hopefully we'll have some roots. That'll be in the next video, how my air layering works out. This is just part 1 of this. Okay, let's leave that to do its thing. Okay, it's been a couple of hours since I cut this. So as you see, it's kind of dried out. It's relatively calloused over. You know, like really you'd probably give it a day, but I'm kind of in a hurry making this video. And I've cut off the other leaves. Those bits are pretty calloused over as well, but as mentioned, this will just fall off. So I am going to dip it in water I'm going to use my rooting hormone. So I've just put some of the rooting hormone in here. I got my branch wet, and then I'm going to put this rooting hormone on here, because all these little dots, those are potential roots, right? So this hormone just kind of, it sends a signal to the plant to grow roots there. So we're gonna use that. This video is not sponsored by rooting hormone. It's just something in my arsenal that I use. Now, obviously, I'm doing a water propagation, so the rooting hormone is gonna, like, more or less just fall off. But it will be in the water. And I am just going to put this into the same jar that my mission fig is in, and there it is. I'm going to keep it out of the direct sunlight. There's 2 nodes underwater, and fingers crossed we will get some roots growing. The leaves might not survive, and that's okay. So my tree is repotted. It's been completely cleaned off, and I want to encourage some branching lower. So I'm going to use my Crazy Cakey cloning paste to encourage a new branch. This seems like the perfect spot here, where there is, obviously we lost a leaf there, and I feel like if I do a cut here, add the cloning paste here, that should be the perfect spot to encourage some new branching. And then probably eventually I will also cut it, but let's just see how the branching works first. So I have these sharp clippers. These can actually come apart like little blades. I have sanitized them with isopropyl alcohol, and usually it's right above the leaf node that the growth comes out. So I'm going to use that as my guide. And actually, okay, as I see that, I can see where that would be. I'm going to cut into the tree here. You can see a little bit the milky sap, so I know it is cut through the branch. Okay, and then I have my Cakey cloning paste, which is, it's paste designed for exactly this, to encourage branching on lots of different plants. A lot of people use it on orchids. Here's a ficus. And this is a rubber tree, but you know, same idea. So we are going to use that to encourage our branching. So score nodes lightly with a needle or small knife, which we've done. Dip a cotton swab or toothpick into the paste and dab it onto the scored part of the node. So there's our node. The cloning paste, it's this tiny little bottle, and it comes with a cotton swab. And I'm going to be pretty liberal with this. I'm going to just wipe it in there, getting it into that cut that I've made to really encourage that branching. And maybe I might do it over here as well, because why not? So I just want to make sure that's completely covered in there, and we shall see. So I used this paste before
which I've featured in other videos, and I will show you, that's where these branches happened. So this, I think, was the natural occurring branch, because see how it's coming out of leaf? This is the branch that occurred thanks to the cakey cloning paste. So it does work. And, don't get me wrong, the fact that I cut the top of the tree in the previous video is also probably why it got so many branches. But considering I'm not cutting the tree right now, I'm just encouraging branching, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do it here as well, because I feel like that's another good spot for a branch. And I'm going to apply paste. I'm not putting the dirty side in. I'm going to use this other end. This poor tree is the receiver of all of my experiments, but thank goodness it doesn't seem to mind. I'm going to be pretty liberal with this paste. All right, there we go. It has also been a few days since I cut this branch off and added it to water. Let's have a look. And I mean, of course there's no roots coming out, but can you see, for lack of a more technical term, these little nubbins? It's almost like they're getting energized. They are going to turn into roots. So that is very encouraging. I'm going to put it back in with this mission fig, which, as mentioned, those are the little nubbins that do turn into roots. So I'm pretty confident we'll get a new tree out of this branch.
2 weeks later.
It has now been 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 weeks. I can't remember since I chopped this. And let's have a look and see what it looks like. And little root nubbins are definitely coming out of this Fiddle Leaf Fig. And the leaves are still healthy. And we're going through a really bad heat wave right now, but I've kept them in the shade here. And they are happily propagating. And here's that fig from before. Even more roots. And the same little root nubbins. So look at all those leaves. So that's water propagation. Looking good.
A little later.
And now here it is. It's been about 3 weeks, maybe more, since I chopped this off, plopped it in water with its fig friend. Here's my Fiddle Leaf Fig. Let's see what the stem looks like. Now, that is the start of roots. So it appears the root hormone, the water, keeping it in the shade, has worked. And that is it. Thank you so much for joining me on another Fiddle Leaf Fig repotting and propagation adventure. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments below. Don't forget, you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, and of course, subscribe.